Hi, everybody. Welcome to Reading Between the Lines. I'm Sarah, and I'm joined by my mom, Nicole. Hi, Mom.
Hi there. Hope everyone's doing well. Happy New Year.
So, we took a little bit of a hiatus, November and December, and now here we are back in the swing of things with January. Um, Mom, did you read of course you did. Did you read in November and December? How did those months go for you?
Those months went quite well. I read more than I expected I would be able to in a kind of a busy time of year. But
Yeah.
I read and enjoyed a lot of the things that I experienced. And I think it's going to be kind of fun to look back on what we read in 2025 and see if that gives us any insight onto the type of reader that we are, if it gives us a clue as to what succeeded and what we might want to keep
Yeah.
doing more of in the future.
Well, you had a really fun idea, which was, it's always great to look back at the year and the challenge of 2025 or 2024 and look back at your reading and all of the stats and facts. Okay. But it's also, you had a great idea of looking at having ChatGPT tell you what kind of reader you were in that year. So, Mom and I have compiled that information, and ChatGPT has put together its own perspective on our behaviors. And yeah, I think it
Now,
is
as
very.
as for me, it was remarkably accurate. I put in actually my search was to Chat GPT. I listed my favorite books of the past, my number one favorite book of the past, I think it was 8 years.
Okay.
And I said, what does that tell you about my taste as a reader? And the results that I got were remarkably insightful and correct. How about you?
So you did yours based off of like all-time favorite books that you've read?
Well, past like near
Couple of
future,
years.
I
Okay.
mean near past.
I just did the 2025 year, and I think for me that is insightful because for 2025 was rough, and we took November and December off because I was depressed. I got laid off from my job and needed some time to, recuperate. And then, of course, December happened and all the holiday things. So it was just, time away. But mental state as well was very interesting to see ChatGPT's interpretation of like my reading tastes
Mhm.
then. So anyway, do you want to start?
Yeah, well, I wanted to talk about I made a list of my favorite books for 2025,
Okay.
and it was clear that I read quite a few really buzzy books that everybody
Mm,
on Instagram and BookTube were talking about.
yeah.
So I'm going to mention three of those buzzy
Okay.
books. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail because they've been discussed a lot, even on this podcast and everywhere else on social
Yeah.
media. So I'm not going to go into that so much, but I will mention three titles that I really liked. And then I'm going to talk about three backlist books that I read in 2025 that were
Okay.
five-star reads that you could put
Yeah.
them at the library. They're not going to be hard to get your hands on, maybe even free on Kindle Unlimited.
Yeah.
And talk about those in a little more depth in hopes that if you are a reader whose tastes are similar to mine, you might really enjoy them too. And what I learned is that I lean heavily towards historical fiction,
Hmm.
but beyond that, I really enjoy character-driven and more meaningful stories that have some moral complexity. So,
Mm,
um,
okay.
here are some of the books that I really loved during 2025 that everybody else on the planet did too. The first is The Correspondent by Virginia Evans. It's an epistolatory novel that features a woman in her 70s who writes to everybody. And, and we get to know her through her correspondence with relatives, old friends, people she's quarreling with.
Yeah.
And it was really quite masterful the way the author wrote this book and portrayed our main Sybil Antwerp's character just through her correspondence. The next book I loved was Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. And
Hmm.
this is a book that was set it would be historical fiction. I think it was set like in the 60s.
Hmm.
And it has to do with a love triangle. And there's a lot of moral ambiguity going on in
Mm,
this book, but it was an extremely touching, well done story. And I'm really interested to read more by this author.
yeah.
And the last Buzzy book was What Kind of Paradise by Janelle Brown. And that book was about a young girl who has been kept in complete isolation in the rural mountains of Montana by her very technophobic and kind of mentally troubled father. He loves her dearly, but he is afraid that if she experiences the real world, it's going to affect her in a really negative way. And this book explores what happens when she starts to realize that there's a bigger world out there and what she can do to try to experience it against her
Yeah.
father's wishes. So those are three that I really liked that everybody else seemed to like as well. So
Mm, okay. I also wanted to ask you, how many books did you read in 2025? Like your stats for that year?
I read 136 books in 2025. And the previous year, I think I read around 125. Um, I read a lot this year, but
Yeah.
I think I was pretty careful in the books that I chose so that there were more of them that were hits for me. I think I'm getting better at choosing because I really did have a lot of books that were
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic that I'll think about for a long time. So it was a really good year.
Good. No, what is your goal though for 2026? Same amount of books? Do you want to increase your reading or what?
I'd be happy with that. Anywhere between 125, 135. That seemed to be a good number for me. I usually have more than one book going on at a time. I'll read a
Yeah.
physical book, and I've got a book on my Kindle, and not as often as I'd like, but I often have an audiobook going on as well.
Yeah.
And I think when you read in multiple formats like that, you have more opportunities to read because, it's the middle of the night and you wake up and you can't sleep, you can pick up your Kindle and read your ebook.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
with a print book, it seems like you have to kind of more designate a specific time to sit down on the couch or in your favorite chair and make
Yeah.
it your reading time. And
Yeah.
audiobooks, of course, you it's easy as well. You can do it when you're taking a walk around the neighborhood or if you're commuting. And that's
Exactly.
one of my goals for 2026 is I really would like to do more books, more audiobooks. And it seems that people who do audiobooks have a lot higher total of books read because they'll listen to a book when they're folding the laundry or making the
Yeah.
beds. And I I find that I'm distracted. I mean, I have an opportunity because I spend a lot of time in my sewing room to listen to audiobooks, but I got to concentrate and I can't do that if I've got somebody's voice in my head. So,
Yeah.
but I'm going to
I
try. I'm going to try to get more audiobooks in.
I find that so I am the majority of my time is spent doing audiobooks, and even now that I have less to do, I still enjoy like washing the dishes or doing chores or just being outside and listening and multitasking. And I find that I can focus pretty easily. Um, I yeah, I don't know. So I typically set my goal for 50 books a year, and I just barely make it each year. So this year I've decided to do 40 books and not push it, but also of those 40 books, they're going to be chunkier. So I'm leaving room for myself to not shy away from larger, like 800-page books
Mhm.
or audiobooks, which take, 37, 42 hours to get through, which seems forever. But um,
Speaking of longer books, I read that because of the cost of books is going up so much that
yeah.
publishers are encouraging their authors not to write the 350 pages, but to shorten their books.
Oh
And I have
gosh.
noticed that some of the more recently published books are just under 300 pages.
I
So,
don't like that. I think that's cramping the artistic license of the author, and that's
yeah, yeah.
disappointing.
Although
Um,
there are some 500 pound books, 500
well,
page books.
yeah,
Sometimes it feels like they're
yeah.
500.
that are
Some
like,
of those books could have really benefited from some heavy duty editing
yeah.
and been shortened, I think.
My brother Aaron is always so good at about that. He always, is the first to tell you when a book should it was too long.
Yeah.
Like this book could have been half the length. Okay. I looked up my buzziest books of 2025 and I kind of disagreed with what oh my God, what ChatGPT said about like what was considered the buzziest. So for me, of new releases that I read, where's my list? Hang on, friends. Oh dear, hang on. Okay. Black Woods, Blue Sky, which I think you also listened to. I absolutely abhorred that book, hated it,
Really? I have it. I haven't
hated
read
it.
it yet. It's on my list
Oops.
though.
I
You did
reviewed
like
it.
it.
Yeah, we talked about it previously, and I was like, no, this was just no. All the no's. It was triggering, it was sad, it was all over the place. I hated it, hated it. Okay, so that's how I feel about that.
Okay.
Uh, Everyone on this train is a suspect. That's by Benjamin Stevenson. I loved that. I thought that was pretty clever. It's a little bit of a take on the Agatha Christie trope of,
Did he
it's like a
also write Everyone in My Family is a Murderer?
yeah, and I didn't read, so this was like the sequel, and I didn't read the first one yet, just because I was at an airport and needed a book, and this is what was available, and it was great. It was a great read. And then Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry, and I listened to this on Audible because Audible was promoting it and was like saying that this was the best book of the year if you like romanticy. I also disliked this book a lot. So. For Buzzy, I never have a good track record with like bestsellers and Buzzy books. One more though that I want to mention, I have to find it. That I thought was a really wonderful book and was a new release. Where did it go? Oh, by Julie Leong, The Teller of Small Fortunes. And I did review this book. And I thought that this was a cozy fantasy. There's no romance in it, but it's a found family. It's a journey on the road, and it was very in line with like Sarah Beth Durst kind of a style. And it was just lovely. So if you're looking for something cozy, that again doesn't have a romance, but has some great friendships and also some wonderful character building, I highly recommend The Teller of Small Fortunes.
That
So
does sound good.
yeah. Okay. So let's talk a little bit, or let's go into, well, let me interrupt myself. My goals for 2025 were to read more modern classic authors. And that basically means authors from roughly the 1900s to present whose work is widely studied or awarded or culturally influential. And I read eight authors in total, and I would say that I enjoyed five, well, six out of the eight. So that's not bad.
No.
Um, that's not bad at all. So for those books, I really enjoyed R.F. Kuang, her Babel book. I read Neil Gaiman's Neverwhere. I read Mona Awad, who is a horror author. She wrote Bunny. And of course, I have discovered Winston Graham, who wrote the Poldark series.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Love those.
Uh, and then, of course, Richard Osman. Oh, right, We Solve Murders. What a fun romp that was. That's a great
Yes.
book. Um, I did read an Amy Tan book. I didn't care for it. I also read an Ian McEwan book, which I didn't love. So I'm glad that I explored and I did find some new authors that I forgot the top one, um, which this author also wrote my most loved book of the year. So did you mention your most loved book of the year? Can you pick just one? I know you might have three, but
No, it's like trying to pick your favorite child. I couldn't. But I mean,
I
I've
am your
got
favorite child.
I have I equally loved at least 10 books.
Okay. Well,
I can't
my
pick.
my husband just had recommended that I read The Hobbit. by Tolkien. And I was like, oh my God, no, that's not me. I don't think so. But I did. I
What
gave
a
it a
great
chance.
recommendation. Yeah, Tolkien is
Because
amazing.
I had never read any of those books, and I started out with The Hobbit, and my gosh, that was just the best book of the year for me was The Hobbit.
I'll
I
I'll
loved it.
I'll share something with you. When your father and I were first married, I would read to him when we'd go to bed at night,
Hmm.
and the books that I chose were The Hobbit and the Trilogy of the Rings. We got through them
I,
all. We loved them.
I used to read Last of the Mohicans to Jeff. Anyway, okay. So that was my goal for 2025. I don't really have a goal for 2026, um, except maybe to finish Shogun via audiobook and to read more of the Poldark series. I'm not going to shy away from big books, and I'm not going to shy away from long series of
Good,
books.
good.
So, how about you?
Well, I do have some goals. I have a new reading journal, and oh my gosh, am I having fun with that thing? Oh,
Oh,
it's so
let
beautiful.
me, if anyone is watching this, I'll show you mine.
And
It's a
mine is
little
the
hard to
same.
see.
It's a journal that's put out by a company called Archer and Olive, and the quality of these journals is just unsurpassed. The page, the pages, the paper is a very high quality, heavyweight paper. And if
Yeah,
you are into using, markers or, decorating your journal, this will not bleed through. They're just such amazing quality. And I love to use a lot of decorative features. I'll use stickers, I'll use
mhm,
paper that I'll tear and make collages and just really go to town decorating the pages. And I also
yeah,
have a gal on Etsy who prints out my stickers of the book covers that I read. And so I put those in. And so for every month, I can have a visual of how many books I read and what the covers looked like. Anyway, yeah,
right.
book journaling is a big deal for me. So in my book journal, I have declared that I picked 26 books for 2026 that have been on my TBR for a very long time.
Okay,
And I am determined to get through that list. I'm gonna read one or two of those every single month and see how I do.
absolutely.
My goal was to unhaul a lot of books. I don't really care. I don't care for that word unhaul, but I don't know. I got rid of a lot of books. I donated a lot of them and sold a few on Pango, but mostly I gave them to our local libraries in Angels Camp and Murphy's.
Good,
And they were quite appreciative because most of the books that I donate are fairly recently published hardback fiction. And so
great.
they either will put them into circulation or sell them to make money for the library. So I got rid of well over 100 books
Wow,
recently. And it's so nice to have room on my shelves for more new ones. But I organized everything. No more organizing my books by color. It looked really cute, but no. I Now I can see the book of the month club books that I've purchased and I haven't read, books that I've purchased from independent bookstores or Amazon or elsewhere, put those in a different section so I know what I have. So I'm more organized for 2026.
good,
And I'm going to read more things on my TBR. Those are my two main
good,
goals.
good. Okay, wonderful. All right, so let's dive into what did your AI chatbot tell you about your reading habits and your reading personality?
Well, it was kind of interesting. It told me that I really like emotionally rich characters,
Hmm.
moral complexity,
Right?
and narratives that describe the personal resilience of the main character.
Mm,
And the plots in the books that I really, really like best have emotional heft, but they're not bleak. There's usually hope at the end. I read a book, for example, a book that did not work for me was the latest book by Wally Lamb, something about where the river ends or something. I mean, that book was, to sum it up, everything is absolutely miserable and then you die.
mm,
That is
right,
not
yeah.
the kind of book I like. I like a book where the main character encounters personal challenges and is resilient and somehow is changed for the better by the end of the book. And all of the books that I like seem to have a strong sense of place. And I've said a lot of them are historical fiction. But if it's set in Cornwall, I want to hear about the coast of Cornwall and
Yeah,
the accent of the people who live in Cornwall. I mean, I
right.
want details about the place. So that's what ChatGPT told me. And I thought, you know what? That's right.
I love it. Okay. Any surprises though? Like I know that in 2024, my goal was to read more diverse authors, which I did, and that was a journey. Loved some, didn't like some. Not the authors, but just the story. Um, but any insights into things that surprised you?
That's a good question. I was surprised when I looked at the I use a spreadsheet that can give me stats on genre, for instance, how many historical fiction, how many romance books, how many
Yeah.
literary fiction. I was surprised at I really do enjoy romance books. And I would have said no. Mm-mm. My taste in romance books is not romantasy, and it's not like the bodice ripper. If it's too open door, that puts me off. But I like kind of a
Okay.
rom-com, the Harry Met Sally,
Mm,
You've Got Mail type of book that has humor and some depth. There could be a more serious topic
right.
that underlies, but basically they're lighthearted romance books. And I use those as kind of a palate cleanser, it seems. If you
Yeah.
see when I read them, I'll have read like kind of a heavy book, and then I'll switch to a book that's more in the rom-com category as a palate cleanser. So that was a little bit of an eye opener.
That is interesting. I think I did that too because I read a romance, my first like I don't know what to call it. If it's a romantasy, I guess it is, by Ali Hazelwood,
Oh my
and that
gosh, her
was
books are way too open door for me.
right. That was again was a little eye-opening. We're gonna scoot over that part, but right after that I read like a horror novel.
Mhm.
So I was like, I'm done with sappy romance stuff. Anyway, actually I did enjoy Bride. That was by Ali Hazelwood. That was great. Okay. ChatGPT gave me a whole bunch of really ridiculous but sort of interesting phrases. It told me that in looking at my books from 2025, it told me that I was intellectually flexible, which I
What
asked
the
it
heck does that mean?
when I asked it. And it said, well,
Like
you didn't
sometimes
need
she'll read smut and other times she'll read something worthwhile. What does that
it
mean?
basically said you didn't need to read you didn't need every book to be deep, but you didn't avoid books that were deep.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so all right. But so thanks for that, ChatGPT. Okay, let me go back to my notes. All right. It did say something that I think was kind of fun. It said um it said that I was the kind of reader that brings a book everywhere and I emotionally live inside the fictional universe of that book.
While
So
it's happening, do you think that's
I
true?
guess, I don't
I mean,
know.
I guess everybody does,
I
don't we?
suppose. And it said my personality was basically curious, emotionally intelligent, slightly chaotic, growth oriented, and a very genre fluid reader. So,
I commend you for that.
yeah. And I wrote, so basically it's saying that, I did read Babel, for example, which is a big, meaty kind of a stew of a book. There's a lot going on there intellectually, but I
Hard to
did read a lot of.
classify that one too, isn't it?
Well, and I think also that does say like I do enjoy the genre, multi-hyphenated genre types of books a lot. And it's again hard to classify those and how and to find those, but I seem like I do tend to be drawn to those when they come up. Um, so yeah, I thought that was pretty pretty steadfast, pretty slightly chaotic thing I liked because that is
Yeah,
a
I,
bit I
I
was
recommend to our listeners that they give
yeah.
that a try. Go to ChatGPT list some of your favorite books, and then just ask for a summation of what that tells about your reading taste and the type of reader you are, the type of books that you're drawn to. It's
Yeah.
fascinating.
There's no like chat, there's no like actual like prompt that you need to write. I just gave it a list of what I read and said, give me your feedback. Like what do you, what are your insights here? So you don't need to have
You know
anything
what else you
fancy.
can do? And I did try this, and
Hmm.
it was terrific. I said, okay, based on my favorite books that I've just listed, what other books do you think I might enjoy? And it gave me this
Oh,
list. I mean, some of them I'd read, but a lot of them I hadn't. And so now I've got a list of potential books that will suit the type of reader that I apparently am. So that
I'm
was
asking you to
that
do
was
that right now.
useful.
Um, okay. There was something else I wanted to ask you. Oh, books that you're looking forward to this year. Before you answer that, I was gonna come to the with my notes and say, this is what I'm looking forward to. I'm not looking forward to anything. I am not
Well,
wowed yet by any of the new releases. I hate to say that.
I don't have my book journal in front of me, but I have been paying attention to upcoming books by authors that I have read in the past and enjoyed.
Mhm, mhm.
And I do have a list of those by month, according to their release date. There's a book coming out in March that everybody's starting to talk about. It's called Lady Tremaine.
Oh,
You might like this one.
okay.
This is a retelling of the story of Cinderella from the
Ooh.
point of view of the evil stepmother.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
And it's complicated. And
I'm looking it up.
it just sounds, she's not all bad. And she
Yeah,
has her
March
reasons
3rd.
for wanting to promote her daughters. And in this book, I understand that Cinderella is not as adorable as
Sure.
she is in the Disney version. Anyway, I've got my eye on that one.
I'm gonna get that on Audible for us. So I've pre-ordered it already.
Did you?
So,
Just now
mhm.
when I was talking?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm fast. Okay. Um, well, good. Okay, so now I have something to look forward to. I'm excited about that. I did look up some of my favorite authors, Yumi Kitase and also TJ Klune. TJ Klune, yes, but that's not who I meant to say. T. Kingfisher, all these
Oh,
darn T people. She has a whole bunch of stuff coming out. She's extremely prolific, and I just can't keep up. I've got a backlog of her books that I haven't finished reading yet. So I'm not gonna jump on pre-ordering anything just yet. I need to finish what I have and then move on. Um, but yeah. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about, unless there's something else that you wanted to mention, but I would like to ask you or save time to talk about book journaling in more depth.
I think I'm going to need to go get my book journal.
Go ahead. I'll
All right.
pause. Okay, so I had mom go get her reading journal. For those of you who are listening, this is not going to be very great, but if you are watching the YouTube version, she's going to show her layout and her spread,
I've
which I
been
find
having a
so
lot of fun
inspiring.
recording my plans. So here's my book journal. This is the opening page that just says it's Nicole Reed's book journal for 2026.
And you have like a paper.
I do a lot
um,
of paper collage.
Yeah, this is a paper collage of fruit. I'm doing the audio version for
And this
play by
is
play here.
I have a two-page spread that lists my reading goals for 2026. And you can see I want to read more books that are by people of color and own point of
Memoirs.
view. And, I'm going to try to push myself to read outside of my normal, I'm going to try to be intentional about reading certain types of books.
I like that you also put seasonal books. I think that's really
Yes, and like
nice.
for winter, I had a list, a TBR of books that were set in winter, and
Yeah,
I didn't make it like a carved in stone. I have to read all these books, but I did pick some from that list, and it's been very rewarding
yeah.
to read in season. and I want to do more of that. So I've got lists of books that I own,
Hmm.
books that like the celebrity book club picks. I don't always read them, but I note them. And once in a while I'll read a celebrity book club
And
pick.
you're organizing that by month. You had kind of a grid layout there where
Yes. And
you'll,
anticipated releases. I have books that I'm going to just keep my eye open for.
okay.
And I don't have a ton of those listed just yet. But you can see for January and February, I hear about these things that are coming up pretty soon and other kind of buzzy books that are coming up throughout the year that I hear about. I'll note them down, and it might be a repeat author like Emma Straub
Oh
always
yeah.
comes out with a book every summer, and I've got hers noted to keep my eye open for that. And I note what books that I buy,
Hmm.
books that I've purchased, and here are the books that I've read. And I love the way I did this. I've allowed myself, I made half sort of short pages
Like a pony wall.
up, yeah, like a pony wall.
And you can continue on with that list, but you're still in the same single spread.
Right. And
But you've
since I
got,
like to decorate, I only had to do one header for like
mm,
what, 6 pages.
yeah, I love that.
And I have a anticipated monthly favorites. I'll put a sticker of the book that was my favorite for each of
Hmm.
the 12 months of the year. And this is my DNF graveyard.
I love it. It's like little headstones on the
And I
page
have all my
here.
little tombstones, and I can write the name of the book that I gave up on. And hopefully
Uh,
I won't have too many people in my graveyard.
hopefully the graveyard will be empty, but we all know that it'll be full.
And every month I have a spread for that will be like 4 to 6 pages of just designated for the month.
When you,
And
wait, let me ask you for just a second. If you go back to that main January page, you have a beautiful, like, I don't know, it's like a winterscape scene.
right.
But then you have like the word January, and it looks like it's been kind of like torn. The edges of the January
Yes,
piece of
I
paper are
have some
torn.
paper, some very lightweight, thin brown paper that kind of looks like a paper bag type paper, but much lighter weight than that. And I can put it in my printer. And I have a special font that I've
Mhm.
chosen, and I can print out my page headers. For example, this
Okay,
one says January. And then I
got it.
just kind of roughly cut it out and I use it like a sticker. I use glue and just glue it to the page.
Lovely. Cool. Okay, keep going.
All right, almost done here. And then every month I'll have stickers for the books that I read and a very short, not a review by any means, because I've got lengthier reviews on my blog and also
Yeah.
on Goodreads, but just the basic information. How many pages, what genre was it, title, author, when it was published.
Hmm.
So that's
Great.
what I'm working on. And I have
Love
a
it.
lot of fun with it. And of course, you may ask yourself, that does take a lot of time. You're playing with this paper and writing in this book, and you could be reading. but
Well, yeah, but we need to
but
have you could listen to an audiobook.
I find it enjoyable.
Yeah,
So
I love it. I think it's great for everybody to have a creative outlet. And so whatever that is for you, even readers, if you don't think you're creative, the way you organize your reading list is an
yeah.
outlet. So,
Oh my gosh, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. If you go onto YouTube and you look up reading journals,
oh,
all these very earnest, usually they're young women in their 30s who do book journaling, and there's quite a range from the most minimal type of record keeping to spreads that are so elaborate with stickers and drawings. Some
yeah.
people who can draw, they do just
Oh,
the most
yeah.
amazing things in their book journals. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's another world.
Well, I think that kind of wraps things up. Did we hit all the subjects? Did we
No,
talk
I
about?
wanted to talk about the three
Oh,
books that were backlist that
sorry. Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead. Go for
okay,
it.
so three lesser known novels that were 5-star reads for me last year
Hmm.
that were not published recently. One of them was Someone at a Distance by Dorothy Whipple, which was
Okay.
published in January 1953. I
Okay.
bought a beautiful edition that was put out by the publishing house Persephone, and they're known for their beautiful paperback
Mm,
editions. But I've talked about this book before. It's about a married couple who seem to have a charmed, affluent life in the country with their two children. And there's a slow build up in the book where we become really acquainted with the characters and their personalities. The wife, Ellen, is a woman who works hard to provide a harmonious household and domestic environment for the family. And her husband, Avery, is a charming, outgoing man who works hard takes the train to the city to support his family, but he completely takes his wife for granted. She waits on him hand and foot. They live with, where their Ellen's mother, Louise, lives with them. And Louise is kind of a disagreeable character, but she wants a companion. And so she finds this French woman um, that she invites into their household. And this woman creates absolute havoc. Nobody really likes her because she's kind of rude, the stereotypical standoffish French woman. But the husband, Avery, soon becomes infatuated with her, and he's very flattered by her attention. And you can tell she's completely manipulating the situation. The She leads Avery into an emotional betrayal of his family that is just chaotic. It sends ripples through the marriage and it undermines Ellen's world with just chilling subtlety. And as the novel progresses, we see Avery continuing to make poor decision after poor decision, and Ellen becoming stronger and stronger throughout the story. The characterization of these people is so well developed in this book. You just follow along and you're totally invested with every member of this family and this wretched French woman that's come and messed up everything. But the thing about this author is that her books are just enormously subtle and just psychological domestic dramas that are far better than anything that we're getting nowadays. And she was completely unappreciated at the time that she wrote. She,
yeah.
the critics didn't like her then.
Yeah.
And because I think she was just too forthcoming in talking about things that made people really uncomfortable, like
Yeah.
marital infidelity.
Yeah.
So that was a really different book for me, and I thought it was amazing. And I have it since read several other books by Dorothy Whipple, and they have also been five-star books for me. So
Mm,
I highly recommend if you want to read domestic drama, but really
yeah.
juicy, good stuff. To
Yeah.
give her a try. The next book that I really enjoyed was a book that was published in 2023, so fairly recent, but it's called The Caretaker by Ron Rush, and that was put
Okay.
out by Doubleday. And it's historical fiction. It was set in the 1950s in North Carolina. Our main character is Blackburn Gant, who is a hauntingly disfigured cemetery caretaker. And he leads a lonely life, as you can imagine. He had polio when he was a child, and he's quite isolated. He doesn't really have very many friends. He had one
Yeah.
friend, though, named Jacob, and Jacob gets conscripted to go to serve in the Korean War. Jacob has just recently married a Japanese woman, and we're talking early 50s, so Japanese people were not too popular, especially in rural
Yeah.
areas. There was a lot of prejudice against the Japanese. And Jacob has designated his friend Blackburn, the cemetery caretaker, to also take care of his wife and make sure
Hmm.
that, she's not mistreated by the people in the town. And of course, Blackburn and the wife, Naomi, form a bond that's rooted in compassion and secrets, class tensions. And it was really, really well done. And this is another book where the main character just stands out as someone who's so fleshed out and well developed that you really feel like you are getting insight into the life of a real person.
Yeah.
It was really, really a great exploration of love and loyalty and prejudice and what
Yeah.
it means to really care about another person. It's
Yeah.
very, very good. That's The Caretaker by Ron Rash. And the
Oh,
last
gosh.
one is Mrs. Palfrey at the Claremont by an author named Elizabeth Taylor, which was
Okay.
published in 1971 by Virago. And this plot centers around an elderly woman named Laura Palfrey, who moves into a hotel called the Claremont in London. And this hotel is not a vacation place by any means, but it's a residence boarding hotel where the elderly go to finish out their lives. It's not really assisted living, but it's
Yeah.
just a place where a lot of old people go and they kind of look after one another. And every day is the same, everything's boring. And these people have been completely put out to pasture. And what the author does is she has this uncanny ability to bring her characters to life. And I felt like I knew everybody, every resident of this hotel. And the families don't visit these people very often. It's very poignant. You feel so sad that nobody cares. These people have had lives, they've raised children, and now the world is just done with them. Go die. They're done. And even though this sounds kind of bleak, there was humor in the situation. I did find myself laughing. But one day, Mrs. Palfrey is out taking a walk in her neighborhood and she takes a fall, and a young
Yeah.
man comes to her rescue. He sees her fall outside his apartment window,
Hmm.
and they develop a friendship, which is mutually beneficial to each of them. And the author just tells the story it's poignant, it's humorous, but it's also kind of heartbreaking.
Yeah.
She captures the disdain that's felt for older people's emotional needs and the despair felt by the aging when they are truly alone and feel like they're just being tolerated by other people. It was a book that featured really emotionally rich characters, which is something that I love. And the author just had an uncanny ability to weave them into a story that was really compelling. So
Mm.
those are three backlist books. Give them a try. Nobody's talking about them except me.
Yeah.
And I hope if you pick them up, you'll enjoy them as much as I did.
Yeah. Please let us know if you do read those. They sound wonderful. Okay. Well, now I think we've exhausted all of our topics as we get into the swing of the new year.
You want some titles for winter TB on my winter TBR if you're looking for some
Yeah,
books to read that
I think
are good
so.
for the season.
Mm.
So I just finished reading The Ghostwriter by Julie Clark. It's about a woman who has been asked to write she's a ghostwriter, which means she writes
Yes.
memoirs for famous people. And her
Yes.
father is a very famous horror writer who has some kind of scandalous situations in his past. And
Hmm.
he has chosen her. He's been estranged from his daughter for many years. He's chosen her to write his memoir, and so she has to move in with him and find out what the scoop is on the scandals that taint his past. Another book, oh, you might like this one, Sarah. It's called The Frozen People by an author named Ellie Griffiths. Ellie
Mm.
Griffiths is a very prolific writer. She has a couple of series going on. This book involves time travel back to, history
Yeah.
to solve cold case murders. And there is a special detective agency, a kind of a sub department for the main British organization that solves crime, Scotland Yard, I guess. And these people have a special scientist who's figured out how they can go back in time and solve uh, past mysteries. And
That sounds so fun.
this current day woman detective who's 50, I think, she gets sent back to 1850. And there's a little glitch and she can't get back right away.
Uh-oh.
So anyway, that was fun.
Okay.
And then the last book is The Land in Winter by an author named Andrew Miller. This is literary fiction for sure. It was shortlisted for the Booker Prize last year.
Yeah.
And it's about two families that live in the early 60s in a rural area of England. One family, the man is the local doctor, and they have kind of a higher status. The second family who lives next door is a farmer and his wife, who used to be, it's not quite clear if the wife used to be a call girl or just a show girl who worked at clubs. But anyway, these two families' lives intersect in ways that are interesting, kind of disturbing. And the prose, this author is a real master of
Mm,
describing winter, what it was like in the 60s. I felt like I was back in that time period.
that's saying something. I mean, I've never been,
Described it
so
so well. So there's three titles that are
wow.
good books for wintertime. So
Well, I'm not sure these are necessarily winter themed books, but I'm listening to Demelza, which is the second in the Poldark series. Um, and I also have Shogun, which I'm going to start to get through. And I just finished, which is funny because I looked up, I asked ChatGPT based off of my reading and what I like, what would you suggest next? And it did suggest a book that I've already read for this year, which is great, which is the Kamagawa Food Detectives, which is a Japanese book about a restaurant owner and his daughter who have a detective agency. So if you need a dish that you want to have recreated, whether that's kind of for just nostalgic purposes or, food is a big way of how we celebrate and also the way that we remember people.
yeah.
And so this is what that book is about. It's a lot of people who have had someone that they love very much that has passed on and they want a dish just to taste one more time, a dish in the exact way that they would have made it. And that's for the premise. It's a lot of little short stories within one book.
There's a book that was published last year called Aftertaste that has almost the same premise.
Is it
This
American?
Yes, and I'm sorry I don't remember the author, but the title
Mm.
is Aftertaste.
Hmm.
And it's about a chef who can recreate meals that will bring you back to the person that you loved, who this meal was important to. And it's almost like if I could go back and have,
One
breakfast with
last
my
meal with that
mother, if I could
person.
have one last meal
Yeah,
with my aunt. Um, and if you might read that, that would be a really good pairing
that's
with this
nice.
book that you just finished.
Yeah.
I think
And
they play really well together.
it sounds a little bit like that other Japanese series that was wildly popular, which is like Before the Coffee Gets Cold, which is like there's a specific seat at a hidden coffee shop, and if you sit there and you're ordered your
Yeah,
coffee,
yeah,
you
yeah,
can
I
go
remember
back in
that one. I
time, but
haven't read it,
only
but
yeah.
I remember hearing about it.
And that you can and like you anyway, it's like a time travel book, but that sounds interesting too, of like blending, all of these concepts together. So,
Do you still
yeah,
belong to the Book of the Month Club?
I might come back to it. I got mad at them because every time I tried to read something diverse and new, I hated it. But I still think it's important to try to read diverse and new.
That's true. They also do feature a lot of debut authors, which, we should all try to give new writers a chance.
I
But anyway,
mhm.
I was going to say Aftertaste was a book of the month selection that
Oh,
you could get for a pretty reasonable price. And
maybe
also
I'll do that.
it's been a year, so you might be able to get the paperback or maybe a deal on
Mm,
Kindle. But
yeah.
yeah, you might like that.
Um, yeah, so between Cornwall and Tokyo, that's where I am right now with Demelza and the Kamagawa food detectives. So,
That's really interesting.
okay.
Well, I think this was a great way to start out the new
Yeah,
year, and I'm looking for more reading experiences that I can share with you and our readers.
I really love that you are doing such in-depth journaling, and I think that's really fun. And so I hope anyone else who is doing that, if you let us know. It'd be fun to see how are you
Yeah.
doing your spreads, or how are
Right.
you, what are you tracking? So cool. All right. Well, thank you, Mom, and thanks to everyone listening. And we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.